Why do nations trade? How do different theories explain trade flows? How is the international trade governed? And why do some countries liberalize their trade while others are more protectionist? Those are the questions that dominated the study about international trade, which will be addressed in this course, Politics of International Trade, with me, Poppy S. Winanti. As we discussed previously, international trade is inevitable. However, in practice, countries implement various kinds of policies in their international trade relations. Some countries implement a more liberalized policy, while some others adopt a more protectionist approach. In this context, one of the main questions discussed in this course is why do some countries adopt a liberalized policy while some others tend to have a more protectionist one. This presentation intends to provide an introductory for liberalism versus protectionism in international trade with me, Poppy S. Winanti. The basic tenet about liberalism in international trade can be traced back to the Adam Smith work, a prominent Scottish political economist who introduced a concept of absolute advantage in international trade. One of the main reasons why a country engages in international trade is because it has an absolute advantage based on the level of productivity. Absolute advantage means that the ability to produce a good using fewer inputs than another producer. As Table 1 shows, Portugal needs 10 hours to produce a bottle of wine, and it needs 20 hours to produce a unit of cloth, while the UK only needs 8 hours to produce a bottle of wine and 5 hours to produce a unit of cloth. In this regard, the UK has an absolute advantage in producing both wine and cloth compared to Portugal. Complementing the argument of Adam Smith's absolute advantage, Ricardo introduced a concept of comparative advantage. It means the ability of an individual, company, or state to produce a good at a lower opportunity cost than another producer. By using the example of Portugal and the UK's illustration, in producing a bottle of wine, Portugal has to give up half unit of cloth, and in producing a unit of cloth, Portugal must give up 2 bottles of wines. While in the case of the UK, it has to give up 8/5 unit of cloth and has to give up 5/8 of wine in producing a unit of cloth. It means Portugal is more efficient in producing wine rather than producing a unit of cloth, while the UK is more efficient in producing a unit of cloth rather than producing a bottle of wine. In short, even though a country has an absolute advantage in producing both goods like the UK, however, it is better for the UK to focus only producing goods that it has a comparative advantage like cloth and trading wine, which it has no comparative advantage. By arguing that, Ricardo emphasized the importance of specialization in international trade. Liberalist perspective, every country will be benefiting from international trade due to main reasons. First, from exchange, and the second reason is specialization. Through the exchange, a country can export goods and services in which it has a comparative advantage, and importing goods and services which it has a comparative disadvantage. While through specialization, every country will be benefiting from the total production of output of goods and services. It means, even though a country does not produce goods and services, it still can fulfill its needs from international trade. In this context, through international trade, the consumers will have opportunity to get the access to variety of goods and services, and at the same time, resources are used more efficiently. With this understanding, liberalists propose a minimum states intervention in trade and advocate a minimum barriers to trade, which can be considered to disrupt efficiency and gains from free trade. There are several critics to liberalism. First, by specializing to one or specific commodity, a country will be trapped forever into a situation like exporting raw materials and keep importing final products. In the long run, this will be disadvantageous for that country since the value of each commodity is different, so that the benefits that a country can gain from international trade will also be different. Some will gain more while others gain less. Secondly, unlike the assumption of liberalism, comparative advantage is not the only main consideration in international trade. There are some other aspects that need to take into account, including security and sovereignty of a country. Unlike liberalism, which believes that minimal states intervention is good for international trade, those who believe in protectionism perceive that states intervention, particularly in the form of protecting domestic producers, is necessary in international trade. Protectionism can be implemented through several instruments such as increasing the home market price of the foreign product via tariffs, decreasing the cost of domestic producers through subsidy from the state, and restricting the access of foreign producers to the home market by imposing various conditions and standards which can be considered as non-tariff barriers. In addition, there are several other reasons why a country implements protectionist policies. This includes to mitigate balance of payment. As we all know, this kind of argument is used by President Donald Trump to impose protectionist policies over Chinese products to improve the US negative balance of trade with China. Other reasons for protectionism including lack of competitiveness of domestic producers against foreign producers, to protect infant industry, as well as some industries are considered as strategic industries that should be protected due to security and sovereignty issues. Nevertheless, there are some weaknesses of protectionist policies. First, domestic producers will be less competitive and in the long run will also be reducing its productivity. Secondly, imported products will be much more expensive in the local market and consumers have to pay more. This in turn will create a welfare loss in the society. Third, protectionist policies will tend to have higher political risk such as corruption and unhealthy relations between local or domestic producers and government. In conclusion, by understanding those dominant perspectives, liberalism and protectionism, it is expected to help the students to comprehend the policies taken by countries in their international trade relations. More importantly, as part of the IPE study, it is also crucial to understand who gains what, when, and how, who benefits from certain policies, either it's liberal or protectionist, and what the implications of such policies for international trade are.